It was the kind of morning that steals your breath, not with beauty, but with a suffocating metallic temps of fear. July 9th, 2025. That was the day the sky decided to empty itself over Texas. Not with rain, but with a biblical wrath. I remember standing by the living room window, coffee long forgotten in my hand, watching the water rise. Not slowly, like a polite tide, but with a greedy, snarling rush, consuming everything in its path. It wasn't just rain, it was a wall of dark, churning terror. My name is Eleanor Vance, and I am 68 years old, a woman who once believed she had outrun the storms of life. That morning, I learned how wrong I was. The flood didn't just take my home. It swallowed $8 million. It didn't just ruin a structure. It pulverized the very foundation of my carefully constructed world, leaving me adrift in a sea of struggle and regret. My story isn't one of grand adventures or soaring triumphs. It's the quiet chronicle of a life built with careful hands, of calculated risks and the slow, steady accumulation of security. My husband, Arthur, God rest his soul, was a civil engineer. Practical, grounded, he taught me the value of foresight, of planning for every eventuality. We weren't flashy people. It was meticulously earned, brick by brick, investment by investment. We lived comfortably, but not extravagantly. Our joy was in seeing our modest portfolio grow, a testament to our discipline and shared vision for a secure old age. The house itself, nestled on a slight rise in a quiet Houston suburb, was our sanctuary. It wasn't waterfront, nowhere near. We had chosen it precisely because it seemed immune to the whispers of a rising tide. How naive we were. The first hint of trouble wasn't the rain, but the alerts on Arthur's old weather radio. He'd kept it, a relic from his engineering days, a constant low hum on his nightstand. It crackled to life that morning, not with the usual gentle predictions, but with urgent, escalating warnings. Flash flood watches turned to warnings, then 2 dire emergency alerts. The creek behind our property, usually a docile ribbon, began to swell, its murmur growing into a roar. Arthur, ever the pragmatist, had installed a sophisticated drainage system, a network of pumps and trenches designed to divert any excess water. For years it had worked flawlessly, a silent guardian of our peace of mind. That day it was nothing more than a child's toy against a raging giant. The water first seeped under the back door, a tentative dark tendril against the polished wood. Then it pushed, insistently, relentlessly, a cold dark snake winding its way across the Persian rug Arthur loved so much. Panic, cold and sharp, pierced through my carefully maintained composure. I remember calling our son David, his voice thick with alarm. He urged us to evacuate, to leave immediately. But where do you go when the roads are already rivers? When the sky is a weeping, angry canvas? Arthur, bless his stubborn heart, still believed his system would hold. He was down in the crawlspace, checking pumps, his voice strained but resolute over the phone. Just a little more, Ellie. Just a little more. It'll pass. But it didn't pass. The water became a presence, a living, breathing entity. In our home, it rose from the floorboards, oozed from the walls. A dark tide claiming territory, inch by agonizing inch. I remember the bizarre sight of our antique mahogany coffee table. A wedding gift, slowly lifting, then floating freely, bumping gently against the sofa, the silence punctuated only by the gurgling of water and the frantic, distant cries of sirens was terrifying. Arthur finally came up from below, defeated. His face was ashen, his eyes wide with a fear I had rarely seen there. We have to go. Eleanor now leaving was surreal. The water was up to our knees inside the house. Outside, it was a churning brown current. We waded through the submerged street, the current pulling at our legs, the debris of our neighbors' lives swirling around us. Arthur had insisted on carrying a small waterproof bag with our most vital documents. I had my purse, clutching it. Like a lifeline, our cars were already half submerged, useless hulks in the surging river that was once our street. We were picked up by a National Guard boat, a roaring engine breaking the eerie silence, whisking us away from our drowning life. I looked back at our home, the porch light still bravely trying to shine through the rising water, a lonely beacon of a life that was rapidly disappearing. We spent the next few days in a crowded shelter, a gymnasium filled with the bewildered faces of strangers, the cacophony of crying children, and the constant drone of news reports about the unfolding disaster. It felt like a bad dream, a surreal pause before the inevitable crash of reality. When the water finally receded, leaving behind a thick, noxious layer of mud and destruction, the true devastation began to reveal itself. Our house was a wreck. The beautiful hardwood floors were buckled and warped, the walls swollen and moldy, the furniture a sodden, broken mess. The smell was unbearable, a mix of sewage, mildew, and decay. But the real blow, the one that crippled me, wasn't immediately visible. It was in the digital realm, in the accounts, in the investments Arthur had so painstakingly built our wealth. That $8 million wasn't all liquid cash. A significant portion was tied up in meticulously managed, diversified investments, real estate, too, particularly a commercial property Arthur had always believed was a solid long-term asset. The problem wasn't just the physical destruction of the property, which was substantial. It was the cascading economic impact of the flood on the entire region. Businesses were shuttered, supply chains broken, the local economy plunged into chaos. The commercial tenants, small businesses themselves, couldn't rebuild. Their contracts became worthless. Their rental income evaporated. The property value plummeted overnight, from a steady source of income and appreciation to a toxic liability. Our other investments, too, suffered a brutal hit. The regional stock market dipped dramatically. Companies with local ties with infrastructure damaged saw their values plummet. Diversification, the very bedrock of Arthur's strategy, couldn't withstand a hit of this magnitude. When an entire region is crippled, when insurance claims swamp the system, when businesses go bankrupt en masse, the ripple effect is immense. We had flood insurance, yes, but it covered the structure, not the market value of our entire portfolio, not the income streams from commercial properties that vanished, not the sudden catastrophic depreciation across the board, the fine print, the market forces, the sheer scale of the disaster. It devoured us. The insurance payouts for the home were a fraction of what it would cost to truly rebuild, to restore the life we had. The process itself was a nightmare of paperwork, adjusters, and endless delays. We had to fight for every penny. While living in temporary accommodation, our lives condensed into a few suitcases. Every phone call was a reminder of what was lost, every denied claim a fresh stab of despair. We tried to sell the commercial property to cut our losses, but there were no buyers, only scavengers offering pennies on the dollar. The market had collapsed. The $8 million, the sum of our life's work, simply evaporated, like the floodwaters receding. Sometimes, I wish he had been spared this. Other times, I wonder if his engineer's heart, so meticulously dedicated to building and securing, would have simply shattered under the weight of such destruction. I am left with his legacy, but it's a legacy drowning in debt and uncertainty. The equity we had built, the retirement fund, the cushion for our children's future, gone now. I live in a small rented apartment. The furniture is rented too, temporary, sterile. There are no mementos on the walls, no familiar scents, no echoes of laughter. In this expensive world, I used to be the one who helped them. Now I am the burden, or so it feels. The hardest part isn't the physical loss, though that's painful enough. It's the psychological impact, the profound sense of betrayal. We did everything right. We planned, we saved, we invested wisely, we followed all the rules. And yet, one single monstrous event could strip it all away. Known, the quiet confidence in our future has been replaced by a gnawing anxiety. Every news report about a storm, every heavy rainfall, sends a tremor of fear through me. I wake up in the middle of the night convinced I can hear the gurgle of rising water, the phantom smell of mildew. I find myself rationing. Every purchase is scrutinized. The luxury of choice, of comfort, is gone. It's not just the money, it's the dignity that came with it, the quiet pride of self-sufficiency. I feel the weight of age now, the crushing realization that there isn't enough time to rebuild, to re-earn what was lost. The energy I once had, the drive that propelled me to build that life is diminished, worn down by the constant struggle. I tell my story not for pity, but for warning. Life is fragile. Security is an illusion. A beautiful, comforting lie we tell ourselves. You can plan, you can save, you can protect. But there are forces larger than any balance sheet, more ruthless than any market crash. The true value isn't in the numbers, in a bank account, but in the fleeting moments of peace, the laughter shared, the love given and received. Those are the only things a flood or any disaster truly cannot take away. But learning that lesson, at this age, through such devastating loss, is a burden I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. My struggle now is a daily one. It's about finding purpose in the ruins, about redefining what enough means when you have so little. It's about living with the ghost of what was and trying to forge a new path in the harsh light of what is. The chair I sit on may be broken, but I'm still sitting. The home may be destroyed, but the memories, fractured as they are, still exist. And though the millions are gone, the spirit, a little battered, a little weary, but still flickering, remains. And that, I suppose, is a kind of wealth too, a different kind. One that no flood, however catastrophic, can ever truly wash away. But God, I miss the other kind. every single day.